it forces him to have to, in order to get that abatement, he has to put his commercial up. I think that's a good thing. It motivates him. Because we were all concerned he was just going to do the residential and then kibosh the other stuff.
How about if we were to say start and continue with it within a certain amount of time of the construction process?
Yeah, anything that could just make sure that we don't leave them an opening for some attorney to slide through and interpret it differently.
Yeah, I think we sort of, Chris Edge, have to sort of send it back to you and Mr. Mahoney, and maybe you want to talk to the building, maybe the building department. They're issuing the permits, and they may know how to word this so we don't get nicked. Because I can see it happening, if we're not clear.
One thing you need something that's substantial, so they started that they're into it now. They can't just stop and wait.
Right.
They've already got some money into this and say, okay, we got to keep going now. We just can't let this sit and wait now for another 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it and see if we can change some language and get back to you guys.
Just tweak it a little, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So that takes care of number 4.
Yep, number 4.
Right. So number 5.
Yep, number 5. We did the first one. Thank you very much. Changes to the BTD zone. This is the Berlin Turnpike Development Zone, which we set up for. Mr. Orsini took advantage of it. Mr. Diadio is looking to come in. And at this point, essentially some minor language changes. We have some folks that are looking to come in, and we're concerned about the commercial side of it. So again, Mr. Mahoney and myself looked at it. You will see here in some of the blue lettering, looking for new commercial development as compared to taking what is existing and then going forward. And here we have a minimum of 25% of the floor area. My only concern about that is if the number is going to be too high for someone to do a project. The next piece would be after they have a 10-acre minimum, would be give the commission the ability to subdivide a portion of it out. And I think that is regarding potentially if somebody wants to split out the commercial piece versus a residential, or if it's 2 different methods for financing, was why that was in place. And then going forward here, again, for number 10, commercial structures must constitute a minimum of 25%. And then if there is any existing commercial, it does not count towards the 25%. And then the last piece is certificate of occupancy for the commercial before any residential units can receive certificate of occupancy. Again, this is pushing the commercial side so that we get the commercial before the residential. Any particular thoughts on the first part? I think the new part makes sense. 25%, I don't know if that number makes sense. I think it's a little high only because I want to say that Orsini's doing about 18,000 square feet of commercial, and the entire project is probably closer to 80,000 square feet if you look at back piece included, so it's going to probably be less than that 25%.
Okay, Chris, I guess you're looking for a little feedback and some direction or comments from the commissioners. So I guess we'll just open this up to see if anyone has any questions, concerns. After we move this along, Chris, it goes to council?
No, it goes to planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning, and then they look at it to approve it.
Yes, it would not. The council would not be involved. This is just the planning and zoning issue. It would change. The language change would be in the zoning at that point.
And have they looked at all at the changes that you have suggested here?
Yes, they have. Yes,
They
they were
have.
looking at the changes. They wanted to get our feedback before they took any follow-up steps.
So everything that's in here, they have seen.
Yes, they have seen it. They're going to continue to discuss it, but essentially looking for our first glance at it before they do anything official on it.
And when we say that has this come before planning and zoning, or just the, it's been looked at on the side, or this has been an agenda item for the commission, planning and zoning?
It's been nothing but a discussion item. There's nothing official that's gone in front of them yet. We didn't.
So these changes have not been on the agenda for review at planning and zoning yet.
No, they have not.
So who has, from planning and zoning, put input into this?
I believe so far it has been the planner, zoning enforcement officer, Jim Mahoney, myself, and I believe the chairwoman has looked at it. I don't believe the commission members have given feedback yet because we haven't given them anything official to chew on.
Okay. I guess I'm wondering, should we forward this to them before we, this is sort of, should we send this along to them, Chris, for an agenda item so they can comment and make changes or give us feedback before we even vote on it? I'm wondering what the commissioners think, if they haven't looked at it at all yet, should we allow them and just say, hey, our commission has looked at it. This is what we're thinking. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got a question. I want to make sure I'm on the right page with you guys. We're talking about the BTD zone, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, the units that you're allowing them to develop at 4 units per acre, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
With the exception of affordable housing with upset.
Yes.
Okay, I don't feel as though that's enough units to make it profitable. Here we are dealing in the center of town, allowing a density much greater than that.
Yeah.
I just don't see that working for them. And if we're going to go this route, at least I'm almost saying double that.
Well, at this point, this worked for Orsini. I believe this works for Diadio at this point. And I don't know what else is coming behind that, but this language is put together with Mr. Diadio's attorney with the 4 and the 8. So I know it fits their needs.
Okay, so experienced developers looked into this already, and the 4 units were workable.
Yes. Yeah, that entire property is, I want to say, about 30 acres total. Not all usable, but about 30 acres.
Well, I'd have to say they know better than me, so I will pass then.
Okay.
So Chris, what do you feel as though you feel as though 25% for commercial is a little on the high side?
Well, I think it is. I don't know whether or not someone would be able to swing. Again, we can go with the 25%.
Yeah.
But I mean, essentially you're saying, okay, for every, apartments are, let's say apartment's 1,000 square feet, you need 250 square feet of retail or commercial for every apartment.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to be on the high side.
But the impression that I get from these types of development is that we want to get a pedestrian traffic through these developments, correct? From the residential
We
that are
do.
living there.
Yes, we do.
So wouldn't they need places to be able to walk to? Because they're not going to be able to walk in the turnpike. So aren't they going to have to be able to walk within their community to go to different stores or recreational areas or so forth?
Yes, that is the intent. Yes.
Yeah. So with the 25%, that would give them more choices, I would think, as far as
It would, and the 25% can also work very well. I mean, if the 25% makes sense, I'm happy to go with it.
and I think that gives us a little bit more tax revenue too versus just the residential.
Absolutely.
Chris, what is Orsini's project and the Adios project when you look at the commercial to the residential, like percentage wise?
I do not know what it is on Diadio because he's still kind of in the early phases.
Okay.
I would need to look at exact numbers on Orsini, but I thought it was maybe around 20%, but I don't have that definitively in front of me. Because I know his building up front is 18,000 square feet, and he's got, what, 76 apartments, so if he said 76, 1,000, so 76 plus 18, 90. So yeah, he's probably around 20%, maybe a little under 20%.
Would doing something like this then cause them a problem? Would it open up a door for somebody to come in there and cause trouble?
I don't think it's not going to cause trouble for anybody. It's not for him. He's going to be fine because he's already approved. This would be anybody coming down the pike
Right.
for the next one.
I like the fact that it doesn't overload us with residential units,
Yeah.
especially on the turnpike. I think it's a nice mixture.
You just don't want to hamstring them, that's all. But I agree. I think the
Yep.
commercial end of it's what we're all looking for, is trying to bring more reasons to bring people into town.
Right.
So Chris, Edge, you'd be looking for commission to move this forward? Is that your goal here tonight, to move this forward to planning and zoning?
Yes, if there's any comments, we put those in, get it to planning and zoning, and then they can then take a look at it further. And I would say too, if there's any questions or concerns this commission members have, you can always get as part of the discussion when they have them at the planning and zoning commission. I'm very eager to hear their thoughts as well to see where they are with this. myself.
Yeah. So I guess as I look at this, I'm not thinking that we have to wholly support it in a motion this evening. What I'm thinking is we should have a motion to forward what we've come up with to planning and zoning for review.
Great.
Does that make sense, folks?
Yeah, I think so.
It does, Chris. All right. Absolutely.
Yeah, only because if we say, hey, we're 100% supporting this, you know, and we're approving this, this is what we think, and we send it to them, we may have missed something that they're going to uncover or that they think they should change. So I would say that, you know, we just have a motion to forward the work that Chris Edge and Mr. Mahoney and our planner and our enforcement officer have done, and just have a motion to forward this to planning and zoning for their review and comments.
So this would come back to us then, Dave, is what you're saying, for our thumbs up?
It,
after that's done?
I would say we have an opportunity. I can't promise that we will, but we may have an opportunity because if they come up with final language, we probably will have a chance to at least be involved in the discussion, either as a commission or individually in front of it.
So my question too is the subdivision of the 10-acre parcels as well.
Yes.
So what the main developer would purchase the 10 acres or whatever, however, the 10 acre plus, and then subdivide it like as the condominium type, whether it be a commercial condominium or a residential type condominium, where he would sell different blocks of it. Is that what you're thinking?
I think it's probably more based upon the commercial versus the residential, that I believe it's two different financing engines. So it would be that the residential could have financing A, the commercial would have financing B. I believe that's more of the reasoning for the subdivision.
So all owned by the same person, the same developer type of thing?
Initially would be, it could be under a separate ownership, but essentially the idea would be to, yes, have it under the same owner, but potentially if they need be, they could do the two different financing.
But the same project.
Yes, the same project, absolutely, yeah, be the same project.
I see.
Any other comments from commissioners regarding this specific issue here in front of us?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we normally send it to the council or planning and zoning with approval or no comments at all. So I think we probably should, do it one or the other. Unless you want to have some wording in there, to approve it with their review.
Yeah, we say that we agree in principle with everything, and as long as it passes muster with planning and zoning, and
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that sounds,
At least show some support with it, that we've been working on it and that we like the concept of it.
I mean,
They've always-
we all agree it's reasonable. I
Yeah.
don't want to speak for everybody, but I mean, it seems reasonable. But I'm with you guys. I don't know enough about the zoning end of it. If there's something in there that I'm not aware of. I don't want to go up there and give it a Dominus Nabiscum on this thing, and then all of a sudden they come back and say, oh, by the way, you guys can't do this.
But they'll probably tweak it themselves, Chris.
Right.
Yeah, we're just, if we do support this, we support the concept of.
Yeah. Supported in principle, and as long as
Yeah.
it passes muster with the other town departments.
Good.
I don't-
Yeah,
I-
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we support this proposal and send it to planning and zoning and the council with the for their approvals. Any other additions, Commissioner?
So, and Mr. Exer, you're saying it goes to planning and zoning first, then they approve it, and then it goes to council?
No, it does not go to council.
It never goes to council.
No.
Okay,
council's not involved.
So, Mr. Ergesen, you'd like it to go to council, or?
No, if it was supposed to go, I guess in this case, it doesn't go to council. If it had a tax abatement, obviously that would go to council.
Okay, all right.
I'm not here. This is, I guess, my mistake. It's strictly zoning. So yeah, I support this proposal, and sending it to planning and zoning.
For their, we
For their
always gotta be,
approval or-
yeah, for their review, comments, and possible approval.
Sure.
'Cause you know what happens sometimes, and you know this better than all of us because you've been around more, is we've got our hands slapped sometimes in the past when we sort of overstep our bounds. So I'm always conscientious of that, making sure we give them the latitude to do their work. And I think it's important for the motion to contain that lingo, for lack of better words.
Well, if that's the case, why is it in front of us in the first place?
Well, because
That's-
Mr. Edge and Mr. Mahoney probably want to get some feedback from us.
But that's our charge.
Yeah,
It's for us to promote
Yeah.
economic development
Yeah.
and to make things work. In this case, we're attempting to be competitive.
Yeah, and I'm okay with your motion. I just want to make sure the motion says providing planning and zoning review, discuss, modify, and approve, or whatever they do,
Let me,
Give
let, me,
them-
let me go over this, Ed. You can tell me if this sounds what you're thinking of. The commission agrees with the changes in principle with the planning and zoning review comments and possible approval.
Very good.
Good. Can we have someone second that motion, please?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Okay, good. That takes care of that one.
Alrighty. The next one is the contractors in the BT1 and BT2 as a special permit use. In our last discussion, there were a couple things that were mentioned here. Showroom, minimum lot size, design of the building, site layout. So I went and just kind of put some language together for discussion. My expectation is that this is a continued discussion, not that any decisions are made this evening, because this is something that is important. One, we'd like to have more in town, but two, we'd also like to protect what we have by not rushing this. So I will leave the floor open at this point on what is good for the language and any thoughts you may have.
So, Mr. Chairman, I like the language. I'm just wondering about enforcement. Is there some way we could include enforcement in this new text amendment? I don't know how it could be enforced through planning and the building department or a fine.
You know, Keith, yep, I agree 100%. We had this discussion at our last meeting in December. And this is an ongoing issue in town regarding enforcement of these issues. It's a struggle. I don't know how we super enforce it. I don't know. I agree with you, Keith, because I'm afraid of it too, because there's already violations up and down the turnpike
Yeah.
and other projects, and they just sit there and nothing gets done. And so if we move this forward, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? I agree with you, Mr. Bostrom. I don't know how we control that.
Could the building department have some input on this, Chris, if you approach them?
I can go back to building department. I can talk to building department. I can go back to planning and zoning. I was kind of trying to find a point of which we could start to have some further discussions with it. But no, I mean, I definitely can have a discussion with both building department and planning and zoning to say, what do we do with the enforcement side? One, the existing, and two, if we did something, how do we have some teeth in it?
Right.
Yeah, actually, I think you gotta go and figure out how you're gonna patrol that before we go any further with this, because it's just rampant up and down the highway. There's just stuff all over the place, and they don't care. I know that zoning enforcers go on a few times, they just ignore him or her.
Yeah.
Okay. I am actually meeting with the planner and the zoning enforcement officer tomorrow morning. I can talk to them about how do we work with the two existing, and then if we decide to go down this route, what do we do for enforcement and or some teeth in it?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the way this is written right now, I think we have good intentions here, but I am at this point against it 100%. Against it, okay? I'm glad the other commissioners is talking about the abuse that's been happening out there, but all of us have to realize whatever we come up with, as far as regulations and the site layout, that there is areas that have 50 to 60 feet of state property before the property itself starts, okay? And you may have all these regulations set for the development of that site, and then all the trucks will end up being parked on the state property, digging up the lawns and so forth, and they could care less. Their site went by the site plan, but what you land up is just total chaos and just eyesore after eyesore. All right. So there's too much here that has to be really perfected for this type of use to be allowed out there. We have in here about requiring them to have showrooms and so forth. Well, a carpenter and a plumber's not going to have a showroom. He needs he needs an area to store equipment, maybe pull his trucks inside. But there's no reason for them to have a showroom. This is not express kitchens, So we got to really make sure that we know what we're doing with this. Whether if we're going to ask that the buildings are put up in front and all the activity is done behind the buildings, maybe that's could be a solution. But for us to, push forward in this too quickly, it could be disastrous out there. We already got our problems that you already discussed. So if we can have this as an ongoing discussion, but not drop it.
Yeah, Commissioner Agassiz, we've been trying to clean up the turnpike for years, and we have made a lot of progress. We have to be careful not to go in reverse or pass ordinances or zoning that gives us the potential to go back to where we were, because we know what it looked like years ago, and we're slowly making progress to clean it up. So I agree with you. And Mr. Edge, I apologize. I don't know how the heck you're going to pull this one off to satisfy us, but I wish you luck. Yeah, I don't know if any other commissioners have comments on this, but it's clearly evident. You can start and go up and down the turnpike, and you can just count one after another that's violating zoning. They got equipment in the wrong place, looks like heck, and that's what we're trying to avoid. And so I don't know if commissioners have any other comments, but I agree with Mr. Regazarian. We got to tread very lightly on this, and I don't even know if we can get it right.
That's a good question.
I don't know if we can even get it right, but we have to,
If you have users that have mutual respect with each other, yeah, there's a possibility it could work. But that's the big thing. But
yeah, and then you know what, Mr. Regazarian, your user might be the correct owner on day one. In 5 years, they sell it to someone else, and that user is NG, and they make a mess.
yeah,
So,
that's why I think the layout from day one, so it can't be abused.
well, Mr. Edge, I don't know, unless commissioners have other comments, I guess this drops back in your lap, Mr. Edge, to see what you can pull off, sir.
Well, Chairman Sear, what I like about this though is it does give us some structure as to getting or selling or putting some use to the smaller lots that are on the turnpike that probably can't be used for any type of other type of retail development because it's
Okay.
too small. But this does give us some structure for possibly developing those smaller lots, which seem to be quite a bit on the turnpike. And hopefully, if we could get some enforcement on these issues, if we do move forward, I think that would help out a lot.
Okay, I will take that up with the planner and zoning enforcement officer tomorrow, and then we will keep this on the agenda. Moving ahead,
Okay, sir.
holiday lighting contest. Have counted up the votes. Excellence Hair Lounge on Farmington Avenue received the most votes. Second was the Avenue Restaurant, and third was Good Cause Gifts. And then we had 5 different ones that had finished in 4th place. So we will put together some plaques for those. Good news is, had a good amount of businesses that were part of this, even considering the challenges that we have right now.
How did Seven Moons do?
7 Moons ended up being tied for 5th, actually.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'm going to add one quick thing in here. We're working with the library on something called Booking Around Berlin. There was actually an article in the Citizen last week. The idea is to get kids, of course, to read. And so there is a book cover in the front window of 20 of our businesses, and essentially it is a scavenger hunt. So kids go out, if they can get, I don't know what the number is, 15 of the 20, they then have their name put in for gift cards. The good thing, too, is we were able to get 20 of our businesses to now have a little more traffic in front of it. And the good thing, too, is got approval to buy the gift cards out of our budget, which was great. So we supported our businesses in a couple different ways. And that goes until the end of January.
Okay.
Ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, Provision Concrete actually did a soft opening last Friday. That was the second tenant in the old Depot Crossing or Tyvek building. They're open, I believe, Tuesday to Sunday, so you might want to swing by. Faux Bar, that is the Vietnamese restaurant that's going to be opening in the same building as Boss Grill. still working on their things at this point. Got delayed a little bit, but they are planning on still opening. Steel Center at Farmington Ave, as I'd mentioned, Mark and Tony do have their foundation permits. Hoping in February we can do a groundbreaking for the first building, which will be the commercial building on the ground floor, 16 apartments above, which will be right next to the old firehouse where Joel's Hair is. Sam's, which is the gas station on that little corner piece in front of Home Depot, they're looking to reopen as well. So we may have some ribbon cuttings coming up, and still some good things happening.
Okay, good, Chris. Thank you. Any commissioner comments on item 6 on the agenda with respect to groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, or the holiday lighting contest? Okay, thank you. The last item on the agenda is commissioner discussion, and that item is officers, and that voting for officers happens. We verified it with Kate Wall. Sometimes I forget. I think it's January, but it's always February. Kate Wall says voting for officers of all commissions happens in February. And it's been on the agenda at the December meeting. And it's on the agenda tonight. And then we'll be voting for officers in February. So in December, we talked. Everyone had an opportunity to talk. We talked at length at that meeting regarding this issue and who was interested, who was not. The minutes in your package from the December minutes cover pretty much everything that was said there at that meeting. So I guess what I would do is I would open it up to see if any of the commissioners that were here in December have any questions or comments, or if anyone else has any questions or comments regarding this issue.
Well, I wasn't there in December, but I'd definitely be interested in secretary again.
You have to practice your penmanship a little better.
Oh, is that what it is? Not sitting on your lap won't work.
That would be treasurer, right?
No,
Yes.
it's secretary in there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I believe secretary treasurer is one position.
Oh, that's one. Okay, so you'd like to continue, Mr. Campanelli, with that?
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. Campanelli would like to continue. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Anybody else would like to throw their hat in the ring?
Okay, that takes care of item 7. Item 8 is adjournment or anything else. We're sort of done, I guess.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
Chris, we talked really briefly about Kensington Market. Are they moving forward? Are they doing anything? Because that's the biggest blight in town, and it's right in the middle.
They finally are. There was actually a contractor today who was taking down the framing that's above the building. They ended up being somewhat delayed because being in the Farmington Avenue area, they needed to go to planning and zoning for the blessing on it. They did get the blessing. They did get the permits, and then I'm not sure what happened. They kind of stopped for a couple weeks, but the good news is I did see activity today, and I would agree with you. It'll be nice to get that done again, especially because they do have Chris Rose, at least one of the new tenants.
Okay,
Yes, agreed.
good. Any other comments, questions, concerns before we adjourn, folks? Okay, we'll look for a motion to adjourn, gentlemen.
I motion to adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Sisti motions to adjourn. Second somewhere?
I'll second that.
That's Mr. Campanelli. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Adjournment passes. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
Take care,
Hey,
gentlemen.
commissioners.
Nice seeing you again.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.